The haters were right. Everything the doubters were saying about this team is true. This Lakers team can't win a championship. I know it's still early in the season, but we've played enough games to see what this team is capable of, or more importantly, what it isn't capable of. Their losses have been bad. Their wins have been bad. This team hasn't given us any reason to believe that they are capable of winning a championship. Let's start with this team's most obvious flaw, and the one we've been getting roasted for the most. The Lakers' age. I mean, obviously, this team is old as shit. There's no debating their age. The debate was whether or not their age would affect the on-court production. And the haters were right. It certainly did. If you look at the Lakers' injury report, it just goes on and on. Half the team is injured. I mean, what do we expect? That's what happens when a majority of your players are about to go into retirement. And when you don't have your full roster, you can't play to your full potential. But I'm tired of people using that as an excuse. Oh, we haven't seen this team fully healthy. They're playing bad, but when this team gets healthy, really? Because I'm not sure that's ever going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but when most of your roster is over the age of 33, chances are they're going to miss some games. Older players tend to get injured more frequently and be out for longer periods of time. And when guys are out, other players have to make up for that injured player. When you're replacing an old player with another old player, because that's all you have, you then force those old legs to play more minutes and in a function that they're not used to, further increasing the risk of injury. This just turns into musical chairs on the injury report. Now let's talk about another pretty obvious flaw the haters were giving us shit for. Westbrook's bad fit with the team. I think everyone that watches basketball knew that this was going to be a bad fit, or at least a questionable one. That's why this move was so polarizing among Laker fans. A lot of us absolutely hated this trade, and after it happened, I think most of us went into denial and tried to convince ourselves that it would work. Well, it hasn't so far. Everything, and I mean everything, that the haters predicted about Westbrook is coming true. Down to a T. He hasn't been able to be effective playing alongside LeBron. The spacing has been terrible because he can't shoot. He's not aware of how bad a shooter he is, and he continues to shoot despite his terrible percentage. Oh yeah, sorry. There was one thing the haters failed to predict: his historically bad turnover rate. Honestly, I do believe they'll figure something out, but I don't know if that something will be good enough for a championship. The fact that they even have to figure it out is not a good outlook on their chances of winning a ring this season. When AD first teamed up with LeBron, they won a championship their first year because the fit was so seamless. Fitting in a guy like Westbrook may take more than a season. Even with Wade and Bosh, LeBron didn't win until his second year with the Heatles. Now at 36, about to turn 37, it's probably going to be even harder to adjust. This team has a myriad of problems, but their biggest one is their lack of defense. Just go down their roster. Who are their defenders? Anthony Davis is the only one you can definitely say is a good defender. Then you got some maybes. Maybe LeBron is a good defender in spurts when he decides to be. Avery Bradley is a good defender, but he's too small. THT could be a good defender, but we haven't seen him do it consistently enough, and he's also undersized. And the rest of the roster aren't good defenders. You can't have good defense, let alone win a championship, with only 4 defenders on your team. And it's actually more like 2.5. They have absolutely zero wing defense. There's LeBron and AD, and then 2 centers, and the rest of the roster is pretty much point guards. And although some of them technically don't play the point guard position, they're all the size of point guards. The wings are the most abundant positions, if not the most important position in the league. The average height in the NBA is about 6'6". So most players are going to fall into that wing category. That means the majority of players you're defending are going to be wings. How the hell are you going to defend the wings if all you have are slow-ass centers and small-ass point guards? It makes no sense. And I know everyone wants to blame the coach for all these problems, and he definitely deserves his share of the blame. But the Lakers knew what kind of coach he was when they hired him. He's a defensive-minded coach. How are you going to hire a defensive coach and not give him any defenders? He's not really known for his offensive strategies, which is why they hired Jason Kidd and Lionel Hollins. They pretty much picked his coaching staff for him, which is unprecedented. But then they let those 2 coaches go. Now he's left with a team that doesn't have the ability to play his style of play, and he doesn't have the offensive minds to make up for it on the other end. They're setting him up for failure. This team as currently constructed cannot win a championship. The roster doesn't fit with the coach. The roster doesn't fit with each other. I would love to be wrong, but I don't think I am. Maybe it's good they're struggling this early. That way management realizes what a shitty job they did putting this team together. Then they can make the necessary changes sooner rather than later. I mean, there's not much they can do. They're pretty much capped out. Trading Westbrook is not the answer, because no other team would be willing to take on that contract. They can hope for a quality player to get bought out. The very least they can do is sign some wings. Sign a free agent, or even sign a G Leaguer that's 6'8". He doesn't even have to be a good defender. At least you can throw some size at the opposition. There's still a lot of time left in the season. I think changes are coming. There's no way a competent GM would look at the way this team has been playing and say, this is okay, this is fine. I do think the big 3 will figure out how to play with each other, and they'll be able to provide enough offense for this team. But the defense, that's gonna have to come from elsewhere, because no one on this roster is providing it. So far, the haters have been right about everything. Now we'll see how the players, coach, and especially management will respond.